is 7:42.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The voice of the creative economy.
With Vincent Heeringa.
Is indeed from Good Magazine, NZ Marketing Magazine, Ideologue. It's all under Tangible. It was also Real Groove Magazine as well. It has been announced that the October 2010 edition of Real Groove is the final edition for the magazine after many years. And Vincent Heeringa was one of the decision makers in closing down the magazine, and he's here to front up this morning. G'day there, Vincent.
Good morning, Wammo. It's the morning grill.
The morning grill indeed. Well, okay, Real Groove Magazine, how long has it been around for?
That's a good question. It is an institution. The exact date of it is hard to pin down, but Groove as a brand, this is an interesting fact of history, is that the first music magazine in New Zealand was called, 1963, was called Groove.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And
of course, the name Real Groove comes from Real Groovy Records, isn't it?
Real Groovy, the store, which had a need for creating a media product that then developed into a kind of a street press, like a what they call crash folded, sort of like a newspaper, and then developed over time into a quite large format perfect bound magazine, and then became the magazine we know today, which is a big, beautiful, glossy, 100-plus page magazine all about music and really strongly focused on Kiwi music.
But you, Vincent, have said no more. We will no longer have the Real Groove magazine. Why?
Well, I guess as much as we love the brand and love the category and have a real affection for magazines, when you get digging a hole and pouring money in and then covering it up to no good effect, you've got to stop it at some point. And because I was new into the company and didn't have the emotional connection to it and the history with it, it probably fell to someone like me to make the take it on the chin and say, yeah, we really need to stop the losses. The fact is the market has moved on, and there really is little role anymore in people's lives for a big, fat, glossy, paid-for music magazine on a monthly basis.
Is that true in a global sense, or is that just true on a New Zealand context, in a sustainable New Zealand context?
Well, the economics of magazines are different in New Zealand as they are elsewhere, mostly because so much of the cost for us is actually in creating the content of the magazine. So something like Rolling Stone, for instance, which still continues and still seems to make money, when the same magazine can produce 1 million copies and sell, 500,000, you're still able to make a reasonable amount of money, and you're able to, on the basis of that size of circulation, attract quite a good advertising base.
So was the content of Real Groove too niche, too focused?
Yes, I think so. I think that's probably right, and also out of step with where New Zealand consumers are at. So at the same time as there's kind of a falling appetite for reading long-form articles about music, other parts of the music business and the music industry are really booming, and probably the one that's quite surprising is the gigs and the live market is really vibrant, both here and in Australia. And so the media was kind of out of step with where people are at, because the question is not who's that band and what's the backstory, and I want to read a long story about how they got together, etc. It's who shall I go and see tonight? What shall I listen to? What did that band just release? What's that video? What's on the telly tonight? I think that urgency is where we need to get to, and that's why at the same time as closing Real Groove, we have merged it with our other music product, the Groove Guide, which is much more successful in a financial sense because it's much more in touch with where people are at. They want to know what to do, right now.
And we will talk about that, but I think let's go back to sort of the content of Real Groove magazine. So you're saying that there is no thirst out there anymore for that longer form, as you say, that backstory behind a band, that really good music journalism, hanging out with a band for a couple of days or going on a tour with them and getting that Rolling Stone-esque type story.
Yes. I think there is, but it's in the minority, and people are not prepared to pay. So, most magazines are funded by, selling copies and subscriptions, and then 80% of the cost is covered by advertising. So we've got the double whammy of people, and we're talking mostly about younger readers, so, sort of 20 to 20 plus is the target market, are just not prepared to pay for their media anymore. So they are not prepared to buy a subscription or buy a copy of the magazine. So we've noticed that retail sales, despite having a fantastic product, fantastic covers, really great writing, I can honestly say there was nothing wrong with the product except that it's out of step with where people are at. So people are not prepared to pay for their media so much anymore.
In that case, then why is Rip It Up still existing?
Oh, goodness knows. I can't figure that out. But, I don't know the inside of their business, but I would be amazed if they aren't bleeding in the same way that we are.
I guess it's all that exists, though, in that space now in New Zealand on a local level.
Well, no, that's not true, because there's a lot online. So there are a huge number of blogs around music, and really quite niche blogs about gaming, entertainment, television, metal, dance, hip-hop. So there's a huge amount of free content and good quality content online. But the second part of the funding is that 80% of the money that we make out of magazines comes from advertising. And when you've got an industry that's in complete free fall, so every month CD sales collapse another 15%, the money that used to be spent by the record labels on advertising and promoting, which was the bulk of the advertising in Real Groove, was almost vanished.
But if I'm flicking through, excuse me, I don't have the latest edition in front of me because that's been snapped up around somewhere else around the office. I've got the July edition in front of me, but we've got full page ads here: Lonsdale, Jack Daniels, Comedy Central. These are all big gigs being advertised as well. Juice TV's in here. I guess some of this is Contra, but this does seem to be a lot of advertising in here, branded advertising. Yeah,
the operative word was themes. So both Real Groove and Rip It Up. And again, I don't know the insides of Rip It Up, but I'd be fairly certain that a huge number of those ads that you see are contra. So, we'll give you an ad if you give us a night in your bar. Or we'll put an ad on C4 and you put an ad in our magazine. Discounted rates, desperate attempts to make the magazine look good. So, eventually the smoke and mirrors has to come to an end, and you need to front up and say, we just can't keep doing this. This is not a, it's not a sheltered workshop for music lovers. We just we have to stop, and we have to move on to meet people where they want to be, which is around live music. People are going out. They're really hungry for knowledge about where to go and what to do.
Okay, so
that's what we need to do.
So on to the solution for Tangible to stay within this music space is what?
Well, the model is kind of back to the future, because where Real Groovy and Rip It Up have come from is in that street press market, a gig guide basically. Distributed around the city at really key points where people can grab copies at their convenience and find out what's going on, read it on the bus, read it on the loo, read it in the queue at McDonald's, grab it outside a supermarket, grab it out in your favourite store, and find out what's going on. And that seems to be where people are at. It's around sort of action and closer to that decision opportunity. So rather than it being a kind of a long, thoughtful read, it's a much more urgent read. And you think about kind of, I don't want to sound too old-fashioned, but you think about the iPod generation. It's like, man, I love that song. What is it? Want to see the video. Want to hear a sample of it. Might download it from iTunes. Might just pirate it off my mate. there's much. It's sort of instant gratification, and that's where the music media needs to be, and not just music, but entertainment media needs to be.
So will the Groove Guide look pretty much as it is at the moment?
It's going to be an A4 publication and then folded in half to make an A5. So it's a stapled A4 and then what we call crash folded. So it's kind of folded like a newspaper. And we'll double in size the Groove Guide, and then we'll also be investing online to get much more urgent and active opinion reviews, gig guides on the website. The one thing that on the website that was just a fantastic service is you can upload your own gigs. So if you're a band or a venue operator or a bar or a promoter, you can upload your gigs for free on
which is the case for all gig guides, really.
Yeah, it is. It is, but I guess that we've probably got the most comprehensive one. It's particularly focused on that market, which is that slightly alternative. With a real emphasis on Kiwi music.
But so as you say, there'll still be the reviews in there, and there'll still be the interviews as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think
so nothing really changes. I mean, it gets a little bit bigger, but nothing changes that much.
No, I suppose it's the frequency of the content and the kind of the urgency of it. It's the comprehensiveness of it. So adding more sections to cover television and movies and sort of other aspects of pop culture. And also, I think where people are at. They're living in their phones and they're living in their iPads and digital devices, and that's where our content needs to be, and not just writing a magazine and then digitising it, but actually living in that media.
So, at the moment, are you developing a platform for the web or for the Real Groove website or whatever it's Groove Guide website in order to deliver this content? Yeah,
well, the first thing to do is to get more daily changes. 3, 4, 5 news stories, blogs, reviews happening a day on the website, and then absolutely, we're looking at an iPad app around that whole entertainment sector, an iPad and an iPhone app, so that it's right there where people are asking the question about what shall I do tonight? What shall we listen to? What's on TV? What's worth watching? What's worth in terms of kind of pop culture, what's worth doing.
Okay.
That's the moment we want to be at.
Thanks very much, Vincent. We will, follow this closely over the next few months.
Pleasure, Wammo.
Vincent Heeringa from Tangible Media, talking about the closure of Real Groove magazine, but also the continuation of the Groove Guide.